That's intermediate.
GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com.
All right. Well, this will be take two. For those of you who don't know, I started late here because I just went through the whole beginning of this show off air. Somehow I don't know how to click the on button correctly. So this feels odd for Clover and I, but I'm saying the whole thing over again. Welcome, everybody, for joining us this morning for our coaching show. We've been doing this for a little over a year now. Clover Tack from GunTuber Academy joins me every Tuesday. I'll take a minute and let Clover say hey.
All right, good to be here. It's been a few weeks, been super busy, so good to be
Get a little
back.
bit different than the first time around, but yeah, I got about, I don't know,
Yeah.
5 minutes into the show and then turned around and went, oh wait, I never turned on the button yet.
Right.
So we're starting a couple of week run here, see how it works, see how it feels for everybody. But we're going to talk about advanced content creation. So often these conversations, especially coaching and stuff, we don't know who we're talking to, so we default to basic or entry level. And well, I mean, as much as it all is the basics, really, right? It's hopefully useful to once in a while jump up and actually talk about more advanced stuff. So with that being said, I know I'm just throwing this at Clover, so I'll give him a chance to talk for a second here. And what do you think of addressing the more advanced topics or the advanced?
I like it. I like it. It's really easy to get into that default mode. It's super easy to do that, and that's one of the reasons that GunTuber Academy was started, was to get at least specific to that style of content creation. But even within that, it gets hard. I mean, when you talk or somebody starting out versus somebody that's been doing it for a while, somebody been having pretty decent success, or somebody been trudging along, you know, um, and that's where all of your bigger gurus. I mean, they absolutely 100% cater to the lowest common denominator, and there's nothing wrong with that. Overall, I mean, there's a lot of people that they see content creation, they see influencers, they see YouTubers, they whatever you want to call it, and they go, oh, there's money in that, or there's fame, or there's this, or there's that. They see some kind of something with that, and they want to give it a run. And a certain amount of those are going to have a certain amount of success. True, but you've got a lot of eyeballs, is what I'm saying. From the let's get started. How do I get started and become famous or get rich, or however that is billed. And the it's a disservice to those that are sort of in the middle of the road that need some more advance. They're ready to take that next step. They're ready to step up. They're ready to be thinking about more serious things. And quite honestly, the people that are serious about the undertaking, if you're just goofing around on the internet, like, that's one thing. But if you come into it, you see, other people creating content, and you're like, man, I want to do that, and you genuinely want to do that, then I think you probably should have a certain amount of sincerity and seriousness and everything, probably starting out. And that doesn't mean that you attack it from a pro level, and you throw thousands and thousands of dollars at it, and you spend you know 80, 90 hours a week working on it. That's not what I'm getting at. But you've just got a serious approach. Maybe a more methodical approach would be a better way to put that. Um, and so, yeah, hopefully we can do some more advanced stuff. At least, I would say intermediate level. Um, and if you're out there, and if you are on a more basic level, and you think you're not ready for some of this, first of all, challenge you to actually think about it, because you may think that you're not ready for some of the more advanced stuff, but you may indeed be. It's just scary to step off that ledge, to take that leap and do it, right? So that's the first thing. So I'll challenge you to rethink: Are you ready? Because you very well
So
could be.
I'm going to interrupt you because one of the things I was hesitating to ask you, but you're kind of rolling around it anyway, and now I'm going to try to make it a poll if we can figure this out. what makes an advanced content creator? What characteristics? And if you, I'll take the first four that show up in the chat that are decent and aren't weird, and we'll put those into a poll and let the people that are listening
I
live
like
vote
that.
on it. But what
I
do
like
you,
that.
what comes to your mind when you think advanced content creator? What metrics, what characteristics, what attributes? I don't know what to call it. What bullet points?
I think there's a legit passion behind it. Um, I think we've talked about it before with starting a channel, so I guess it starts there. Um, but then that moves into, and you hear a lot of people go, "I don't care," right? Like, "Oh, I don't care. I just put my videos up. I don't care." Well, I think there has to be a certain amount of care with the content you're creating, the responses you're getting. Not talking about comments, responses, or how it is received by the viewer, or let's just say the public, because content can be a multitude of different things. Um, Not just from that perspective. I think you've got to look at how the platforms are seeing it, right? How the robots, the algorithms, the AI. I think when you start paying attention to that, and you realize, and maybe you went into it with it not, you had full intention of it not being a 100% goof off hobby. I mean, you wanted to make a run of it. I was that way pretty much. Um, at some point, I was like, okay, I'm doing this. It's time to buckle down. It's time to get serious, right? And once you kind of make that decision, wherever that's at, whether that's day one or day 500, um, I think lost my train of thought there, but I think that, yeah, once you make the decision to, hey man, there's so many things here I need to be paying attention to. I'm not going to let them necessarily dictate where I go and what I do, but I need to understand more. And quite honestly, I think the folks that would click on this, listen to this type of coaching, this type of podcast, this type of live stream, um, whether they know it or not, are probably teasing, uh, considering, on the cusp there, right, of moving into that advanced nature, because they're seeking out that knowledge. They're wanting to know more. So, but I like the question, and that's tough. It's really a tough one to answer. It's kind of like, what is a creator? What is an influencer? What is a YouTuber? Um, there's a lot that can go into that. We're all personal. We have our own things. We have our own delivery and our style and our interest, and other things also going on in our lives, and whatever other projects that it might be. So, everybody is going to be a little different. And again, we get back into that common denominator thing, and that's, we got to, every now and then we got to break out of that. So, if we break out of, in our coaching, we break out of a common denominator and you feel like you don't fit in, again, I revert back to challenge yourself to see if you actually do fit in first. And then if you don't, uh, maybe listen, absorb, and you can use that to potentially help somebody else. Maybe you run into a content creator out there that what we're talking about does apply to. And you go, oh, you know what? You might want to try this, this, and this. And then that gives you the opportunity to do some coaching and stuff as well. And that's, having that support structure. It's another very important part of being a creator. Um, I think you've got those that only take, and you've got those on both ends. You got the brand new folks that come up and it's gimme, 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 gimme. You've got the folks that make it to a million subs or whatever, and then they're entitled. It's a much different situation, right? It's not that they're new and they just want everything handed to them on a platter. They put in the work, they've done the hours, they've done the time, but now they feel more entitled to it. So it's gimme, 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 gimme. And then you've got a wide range of folks in the middle. So yeah, once you start absorbing some of the advanced techniques, advanced ideas, and things like that, it gives you the ability to be a more viable, a more contributing uh, member of, a support structure you have, communication with other creators and maybe helping newer channels come up and things like that. So um, that's one of the reasons we do this, is not just to help the folks that are out there right now that are listening, that are watching, but to help you help others as well. went on a tangent a bit.
Yeah, it's all good. So I've been putting the question out there: what makes an advanced content creator? And um, from Snob, we got steady growth. There's more than this. This is the ones I start because I wasn't sure how many were going to come in. I'll go back and grab the others. And then one from Jeff is consistency. So those are attributes, right? And when the question is what makes one, so I could see attributes, um, being part of that definition. Um, what about characteristics that are more what's the word, like the analytical, like size, that kind of thing, views, number of videos, number of all those kind of things, number, rate of views, and all that kind of stuff. Do you think there's a threshold there with
Yeah, I think so.
typical analytical stuff?
Well, there
I
has
mean,
to
that's
be.
typically how platforms will divide it, is
Yeah.
time on the clock slash,
Hmm.
I don't know, performance during that time.
Yeah, like how things are weighted, right? Definitely is an issue. And just the amount of videos, the amount of time that you put in. And I say videos, the amount or the pieces of content. We've talked about it with the beginning strategies many times before, but the more things you do, the more practice you get at doing them, and the better you get at doing them. So, those that typically have more pieces of content, more, at some point you do reach a level. But this is where it's important to have some advanced training too, because the plateau is a real thing. So you can get better to a certain point. You could get better at maybe video 200, let's say, and I'm using videos. This could be podcasts or anything. But let's say at 200, you reach that plateau. You've gradually improved things and you've improved things and you've improved things. At 200, you plateau. Well, if you put out another 800 videos, you've now got 1,000 videos, but you plateaued at 200. So, had you started thinking in a more advanced nature, had you sought out some advice, some coaching, some strategies, and started to deploy and employ some of those advanced strategies, could you have bumped that plateau up, right? And continued to uh, put out, create, quote unquote, better, and I know that's subjective, but better content in those subsequent 800 videos instead of 800. In other words, you're still exactly what Snob was saying. Growth, people hear growth and they think that growth is, oh, my sub numbers keep going up. Oh, my view numbers keep going up. Oh, my affiliate marketing sales keep going up. And growth is so much more than that. You've got growth in how you build your skills, growth in the way that you present information. Growth is a huge thing. Um, or I say it's a huge thing. It's nuanced and subjective in a way. So a lot of room. There's a lot of room for all of us to grow in a lot of different areas. And I'm just not saying that as a short dude either.
So is being an advanced content creator defined by the amount of growth, and then not necessarily in one realm, but not necessarily across the board either, but at some level, if you would, I don't know, I'm just trying to.
I mean, you can put some numbers on it. I mean, we all know that somewhere in the neighborhood of 75% of, again, staying with video and YouTube, somewhere in the neighborhood of 75% of channels are less than 1,000 subscribers. So if you've broken that 1,000 subscriber threshold, in a way, you're in the top 25%. I would consider that.
In the top 25% in that metric, but I'm trying to think of somebody who's,
Yeah.
let's say you've got a method or an objective, a goal, and you've got a method of getting to that goal. And maybe I'm thinking of Professor Yamane, the professor from some college in South Carolina, I think. And he's been sharing his experiences and his interactions with the firearms community and the other communities that he reaches into, and his just from watching him, his goal was to share, not necessarily to be the fanciest YouTube channel or any other goal like that, or the newest YouTube channel or the best 2A channel or anything, but simply to share his experience. And in that, however long journey that's been, a couple of years now, he's gotten better at content creation. So I'd say that person is at a level of advanced content creation. However, if you looked at just numbers, there's no growth, there's no increase in audience size, there's no like increase in number of videos. It's just been a video occasionally for a certain amount of time. It was once a week or once a month or whatever his pace was. But he just had a personal goal to achieve, and he knew he was contributing to the effort, and was satisfied with what he was doing and able to accomplish. But at the same time, moved from the whatever you call new introductory to whatever, to now I'd say advanced, to the point where if he's on the road, he's able to capture content in such a way that I'm sure he doesn't edit anywhere near as long as when he first started. Just some of the little things, having the gumption to even take cameras and record stuff along the way, which he had been doing stuff earlier, but he never took cameras with. So and I'm using him as an example, but think of how many people out there slowly get more and more comfortable with what they're able to do and what they're able to offer, and are satisfied with their rate. They're great, and then I'm not, who knows how far they're all going to go, because they're all still doing their thing. But I'm using him as an example of what I'm trying to get at, that I don't think that although you can use numbers, I don't think numbers are anywhere near the only metric. And it's possible to go viral. We all know people, or maybe you've even had something that went viral. I could think of somebody that had a political thing, a sarcastic thing from the president or the vice president, I forgot what, at a time when everybody was it was ripe for some little blurb. And it was just a little 30-second, 10-second funny thing that was a voiceover of the president doing something, or, just something that was the right thing at the right time. And it went to millions and millions of views. So that channel, who has, it's essentially a personal channel, just sharing some conversations and this and that, has a channel of one video with 1 million views on it. So that alone doesn't mean that you're putting in advanced work into something, right? It just means that every once in a while something will get grabbed, and the numbers will be there. You'll see the numbers on it. We'll obtain metrics on things.
I think a lot of it is that, as you go along, experience definitely plays into it, right? And so I think as you go along, not knowing what you don't know is problematic when you're starting out. And I think at the point that you're getting into that quote unquote advanced creator category, when you start to know a little bit about what you know. In other words, you start paying attention to other things, and you know what things mean, and you can see when little things happen. Maybe it's a blip in your analytics, right? It's not necessarily like you're talking major growth or viral growth or anything like that, but you start seeing reactions to a certain type of video.
Noticing trends, becoming savvy to the fluctuations.
Right. And I think once you are to a point to where you start recognizing it, not only with your content, but you start recognizing it sometimes in other people's content as well. I think at that point you've crossed over a threshold. I think you're into that, you're in the lower tier of the advanced, but potentially, or anywhere on that scale in between. But yeah, I think once you start to know what you know, if that makes any sense, then and you start seeing patterns, and you start seeing little tidbits of things and this and that. When you do, maybe you record a video, and you don't do scripts, right? You just click on the camera and go. and you say something in a little segment, and then you think back to what you said, and you're like, oh man, I could have said that better. I should have used this word instead of that word. Yeah, I think I'll refilm that, right? And so you hit the camera and you film that again. Um, just little things like that, I think, throw you more into an advanced category, because up until then you don't know, you don't understand that, oh, I could have done that better, I could have said that better, right? And the light bulb just doesn't go off, and that's fine, because you don't have the knowledge base. You got to have the electricity running to that light bulb. You got to have the what am I getting at, right? The resources, right, to cause that light bulb to go off. You got to have that knowledge
Experience.
that you've absorbed and obtained, yeah, and the experience for that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But once you get to that level and light bulbs start going off with things, yeah, you've crossed over into advanced at that point. Consistency from Jeff, yes, out there with your report, another great one for advanced. You understand that you've got to be somewhat consistent.
And I think let's switch over to karate or some kind of judo sport where you're going to be, learning what the sport is and practicing, and then practicing a lot, and then having what do they call them, sparring or whatever, and then maybe once in a while you level up and practice different things, but essentially you're just practicing a lot. And at some point you realize that the practicing is, the repetition and whatever has such a value that it's hard to see the trees for the forest type of thing. So that consistency, it's easy to say and it's easy to conceptualize or whatever, but then once you've experienced it, once you've attempted to do, or you've just by nature done a video every day or something, you're just at a different level. You're at a different relationship with your software and your computer. And when you think about, I need a 5-minute video, you don't even think about it anymore. You just think about life's going to be like after that 5-minute video exists. You're no longer thinking about what intro am I going to use? How am I going to edit it? Blah, blah, blah. All this stuff that we have to stop and think about once we've just gotten that stuff down. It's kind of like driving. You don't think about, I wonder how I'm going to put the key into the ignition. I wonder how I'm going to use the turn signals. I wonder how I'm going to brake at the right time. You're just thinking about where you're going to go. You don't think about nothing about the drive, right? And once we're like that with our content creation, now your projects are more about, where am I going? What am I doing? Not how am I getting there? What's every possible thing about getting there?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
So I don't know if
And
that's
and
consistency, but I see that as, that consistency
well,
is a result of that.
and what
Or
allows
I guess
that,
I should say it gives you the discipline to get to there too.
and what allows that, and you just nailed on the concept that a lot of the big gurus would cringe if you said. They would be like, "Oh, you need to be, paying attention to how you put the key ignition and what gear you're in, and when you hit the brake, and when you use the turn signal, and do you need to stop and clean your windshield? You need to be paying attention to all these little things because it all matters." And it's like, does it? Yes, it does. I'm not going to say that if it would not make a difference if you did not pay attention to every little minute detail. The problem is the time you're spending on those minute details. Is it worth? It's almost an ROI play. Is it worth what you're going to get out of it in the long run? As opposed to your theory, which is you've got the skills, you've got the chops. Just go. Where's your goal? Head that direction. And one of the reasons I say that is with the subjectivity, like, but just dang near anything and everything we talk about as a creator is subjective. It's subjective. Even having a million subscriber channel is subjective. Well, okay, your numbers say 1 million under your name on YouTube. Well, that don't mean crap if nobody's watching. That don't mean crap if you're not getting any ad money. That don't mean crap if still nobody knows who you are. How many channels out there, even in the firearm, gun tuber space? Good Lord, I run across people and channels every day of the week in the tens of thousands at least, and often in the hundreds of thousands. And I'm like, who's this person? I ain't never heard of this person before. I've never seen them at a trade show. I've never, seen them on a live stream with anybody, and nobody's ever talked about them. I've never heard their name, right? And I had one of those actually in the local gun shop Saturday. The guy was like, "Oh yeah, do you know so and so?" And I'm like, "No." And the dude creates content out of Houston, has a gun shop down in Houston, and dude's got like 127,000 subscribers or something. I'm like, I don't know who the dude is, right? Seems like a good enough guy or whatever, but didn't even run into him or don't remember seeing him or anything else, even when NRA was down in Houston. So, um, I say that to say, even when you're talking about subscriber numbers, something that people put so much emphasis on is so subjective. And so, whether or not your content is good or bad or whatever is subjective. If I put out a bunch of FUD stuff, of course, the tactical guys ain't going to want that. They're going, oh, that's horrible. That Clover guy, he makes some horrible content. If G wants to talk 2A and there's people that aren't really that interested in 2A stuff, well, guess what? You know, it's to them it's crap. So it's subjective. So I guess you've got to understand that, and I think that's part of I think that's part of understanding or beginning to know what you don't know, is you understand how widespread that subjectivity is, and you don't let it bother you. You keep on, to your analogy with the vehicle, all the little nuances and putting the keys in is subjective stuff more than anything. It's about the goal. It's about getting that
So if we're
project
sticking
finished,
with
that
driving,
product finished. Yeah.
if we stick with driving, you need to get from here to there. You know how to get there with your vehicle, knowing that there's a Lamborghini that would get you there in style is great, but doesn't really matter here nor there, right? You can still get to where you're going with the vehicles you've got.
Yeah.
You can
Well,
still
the
with the strength
goal.
of vehicle you've got. You don't need, just because there's better
Yeah.
ways to get there, fancier ways to get there, faster ways to get there. You can still get there.
Yeah. And I think the goal that a lot of folks run into, and I think this is also gets into the advanced way of thinking. When you're early, you do think about numbers, you do think about subs, you do think about views. Oh my God, how many times have we heard new people go, "Oh, lost 2 subs today." Okay, you lost that. You realize that
Well,
YouTube
that
probably cut
matters when
two.
you're new and you're
Yeah,
gaining subs,
I,
and
I
that
get you,
the
but
big
what I'm
wins is
saying
like the
is,
first thing one of the first things to focus on.
no, I hear you, but that comes with advance too. Is again understanding platform, understanding some of those things, and going, I had a lawsuit, so I was like probably 2 spam accounts or who knows what that was. Who
Well,
cares.
even at any level, you can do something. You're cruising along, minding your business, and you make a video about 9mm caliber everybody hates, and it's a fad caliber, and then you lose thousands and thousands of
This is true.
subscribers after
Yeah,
posting that video, and that happens
this
all
is
the time
true.
with people, and
Yeah,
then they're like, "Oh no," and that's something you have to.
yeah,
You can hear about it. Oh, okay, I understand. But then, your momentum or your motivation, your ego is all taken a blow when that happens. You don't think, oh, I chose a bad caliber to make a video about, or I did it in the wrong way or whatever. Or something you can't think about. Oh, I did it at a time when everybody's talking about left-handed threads on suppressors, and that's the new topic of the day. And I'm talking about the best video ever about yesterday's topic, or a topic that's just a persistent topic that people fall back on when there's nothing else to talk about. Again, that's time on the clock. And I think when we started with consistency, I think I rolled into understanding. That was one of my questions about if that's a characteristic of that's what we're talking about here, characteristics of an advanced content creation or content creator, I guess. We kind of both went into understanding, and I'm wondering if that doesn't come from time on the clock, or can it be gained from having conversations like this with people who are willing to chat about it, to stand on the shoulder, so to speak, or learn from other
get a
people's
boost.
mistakes or
Yeah,
whatever.
oh, get a boost up for sure. Yeah, time on the clock does help, but how many times have we said it? Having that support structure, being a part of a larger community, like all of those things as a creator has its benefits, and part of that is to leapfrog some of that time on the clock. There are
The
certain
time on
things
the
that don't.
clock will give you experience, but
There's yeah, and help build skill, right, as well.
that's
But
true. Yeah.
but there are. But here's the thing.
Well, but somebody
It's
could do one video a week for 3 years, and somebody
yeah.
could do one video a day for 3 months. And I'll bet you that youngin is going to be way more skilled than that person with a lot of time on the clock, so to speak.
Well, they're definitely going to get there quicker, right? And so just because so let's use the time on the clock versus the stand on the shoulders, right? Well, let's just say video editing software. Somebody out there and they're like, "Oh man, I struggle with video editing and the software here, and this, that, and the other." And so they've got somebody that is willing to help tutor, to help coach, right? They're going to stand on their shoulders, right? Hey, stand on my shoulders. I'm going to show you the ropes on this, blah, blah, blah. And so there's a lot of, oh, click here, control alt this, shortcut, blah, blah, blah. This is J cut, L cut, how you throw them in quick, you know, just that type of mundane stuff in
Recipe.
editing, right?
Recipe.
And you have stood on somebody's shoulders to gain that foundation. And then now your time on the clock, like, yes, you still got to put in the repetition and some time on the clock with editing, sure. But you have started from a completely different foundation. Like this 100-mile trek, somebody just airdropped you 40 miles into it. You know what I mean? Like, so, you've got a leg up, you've got a head start. So while you still are going to need a little bit of time on the clock to forge, I think, your own direction and, how you take those little tidbits and skills and apply that to your editing. Um, yeah, it hastened the results, right? Um, yeah, I think there's definitely something to be said about that. I was going to draw another analogy with that, and I'm not real sure
Maybe
uh,
like how you
where
use
I was
your
going to go,
time.
but
Like somebody that comes
well,
in and
just that
works
there's
once a
certain
week, somebody that
things.
comes in and works once a day versus somebody that comes in and works once in a while.
Well, there's certain things that you don't necessarily need the time on the clock and a lot of repetition. There's certain things. There's certain things that you can. Why not? Why not leapfrog off of somebody else that's willing to give you that boost? I mean, take advantage of that. And that's the other thing here. Let's pause for
Well,
a
yeah,
minute
and that's tough because
and
the
say,
things that you might shortcut on might be some of the most important things that you'd rather just learn the
yeah,
real way. And then, how do you know which things to do the shortcuts on, which things you're really
well,
valuable
this is.
experience. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying, but this is where it's really important. Hopefully, the person that's giving you that boost can say, "Whoa, wait a minute! Like I can give you this alley oop, I can give you this boost, but it's
Here's
really
what you're
not going to do what.
missing. Here's
Yeah,
what
it's
you're
really not going to do what
shortcutting
you think.
yourself out of. Yeah.
Maybe go do this, and then when you're, maybe go lose 10 pounds, right? And then come back and let me give you a boost. You're going to go a little higher that way, right? And I hate to use that weight analogy, but it's valid.
He's a
Um,
sizist. He's a sizist. I
right,
get it.
right. Um, but yeah, there's something to be said about it, and that has to do with just who you surround yourself with and the quality of those people. Um, what I was going to say was there's a lot of things that time on the clock, uh, man, it really doesn't matter. It just doesn't, and especially a lot of your bigger gurus out there because of their lower common denominator things. Man, they put so much emphasis on that, and it's just like
Well, here's the
it
thing.
doesn't
You
make any
can you
sense.
can do something once a month for 4 years and say I've been doing stuff for 4 years. Are you
Mm,
going to have anything to contribute? No, because you've been doing the same thing once a month for 4 years. So what are you really able to contribute? Like here's how you phone it in,
right.
right? So those people that are time on the clock are going to say, well, time on the clock is the one thing that everybody else really can't have. You have to be here for that.
Right.
So anybody that depends on that alone is definitely a little sus, I suppose.
Well,
But
you've got so this is an interesting thing. You fall into a time on the clock category, um, and I don't know. I think to an example, to an extent, I fall into some time on the clock category too.
depends on who the person is you're talking
That's
to.
true. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I guess what I'm saying is you've got think about it. And everybody knows creators, especially in this space that is that way, right? Um, like, are their channels the biggest? No, but are they just as respected, revered, loved, admired, a part of the community, whatever, right? Um, as some of the bigger channels and have the same attitudes, laid back attitudes as a lot of the smaller channels and stuff. Yeah, they do. Um, so there's a much different between, oh, this person come out of the gate and absolutely crushed it, and in a year they're 1 million subscribers, and then this person over here, it took them 10 years to get a couple 100,000 subscribers, right? Like, is one necessarily any better or worse off than the other one? No, because it's the person that has that time on the clock um, is probably approaching things from a much more methodical, in the know position because of that experience, right? Um, and all the stuff of experience and knowledge, because you don't do things for 10 years and not pick up knowledge along the way. Whereas the person that came out of the gate, and that's what I would say to your deal. Oh, this person makes one video a day for 60 days, right? This person makes one video a week for 4 years. Which is the better, the more advanced content creator? Well, I think uh, in certain ways they both are, because obviously a video a day for 60 days, there's going to be some skill building involved, like it's like lifting weights or anything else. So there's going to be some that person's going to be very strong in a few, or that creator is going to be very strong in a few different areas. But the wisdom, the seeing long-term trends, the knowing cycles. How many times do we see people freak out when views start dropping, or money starts dropping, or things start going on, and the people that have been around go, ha, 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 how cute, you newbie. Like, this happens every August, or this happens every June, or
Election
January,
cycle.
or February. Yeah, or every election cycle. Like, it's funny, like the scares we go through, right? The panic buying and stuff. It's like, oh, there's another run and it's over and ammo will never be back. And like, yeah, you obviously haven't been around and been paying attention, and that's fine. That's fine. But don't act like it's the end of the world, because you don't know what you don't know. Um, so there's value, I think, in both of those, and both of those can be advanced creators, just advanced in two different ways, and you got to make a. Do you want to be one or the other? Do you want to be a
That's a good
combination of
point. Yeah, know
both?
where you're
Right?
going, and if you're trying to do the one, don't
Yep.
burn out doing the other or waste your time
Yeah.
doing the other.
And you might find, like, everybody wants to start out and be 1 million subscribers in a few years and all that. Everybody wants that. But I'm telling you, the position I'm in now as a creator, like, I would not trade the position I'm in now as a creator.
No,
If somebody come up and they said, hey, we'll snap our fingers, you'll have 1 million subscribers, but you basically got to give up all the connections you have, all the you've got to give up all that for that. I ain't trading what I've got and what I've built and grown and everything else, the experience. I'm not trading that for subscriber count. I'm not freaking doing it. I would never do that. There are some people that would, and it speaks to the goals that you're talking about,
well, all
Jim.
right. So now I'm going to switch to another thing. Now it's a restaurant or something. You can have a restaurant, you can have a chain, you can have a national chain. So people that value going into a restaurant and having their unique experience with the restaurant and the staff and the regulars, and that's going to essentially be a regional thing. Because only the people that can get to it, type of thing. But you maybe have a chain, maybe have a group of restaurants that are franchise, same company, whatever, the same family, whatever it is, and then you got your franchisee, right? Like there's a big difference there. So the person that is working, trying to cook for the one restaurant versus the person who's cooking for the national chain, just a different type of cooking, right? So what do you want to be doing? What's your content's goal? I don't know if I used a good analogy there or not. But let's move on. We're
No, I think
already
it
we're
is.
doing pretty good with time, but I've got a couple of my points here that let's chime through them faster and
Hmm.
then get back to people's points. But we're essentially starting a series on essentially just what we've been doing, coaching content creators. Just we're going to be doing it at a more advanced level here. I'm going to take a moment and talk about what we'll be talking about next week is technical skills. Week after that, monetization. Week after that, community building. Week after that, mental health and lifestyle. And that should be, I don't know if somebody does the math, that'll be coming up towards the holidays. So that'll be good right before the holidays. Then trends and future outlook, followed by some more technical advanced stuff, special episodes, advanced tactics, and followed the last one will be interviews. And then depending on if it burns out and if people get disinterested in this, or give us feedback that it's wasting everybody's time, we'll end it. But otherwise, if that goes through and everybody digs it, maybe we'll have an after, a wrap up show to talk about the key points. But the goal here is to coach, right? Not just to chat and not just to waste everybody's time.
And
So
we'll
hopefully people
probably,
are ambitious and we want to give you something to, a higher ladder, a rope with
yeah,
some knots in it, but to a bigger place, not just, let's
yeah,
get started. Go ahead.
right. No, I was just going to say, and sprinkled in there at some point, we probably should have some, which is what started all this in the first place. We probably should have some shows, uh, some couple aspects on that because we don't want to. I know we're going to have. That's what started all of this. That was the where it stemmed from, and probably late October, early November, somewhere in that range. And I say that probably more like mid-October will be registration for SHOT Show preparations and things. At this point, probably should start being made for a lot of the creators out there that are looking at
Oh, I
that.
had to walk away for a second, but I think you're saying we can easily break this. Yeah, keep doing the series, but put a break and talk about SHOT Show specifically or
Yeah,
something.
say, hey, well, okay, let's get this done. Yeah, because that is a time-sensitive thing
Oh
for
yeah, and our
creators
goal is
out
to
there and
give you a
whatever.
heads up and be ahead of the curve, and not like, hey, well, look what you
Hmm.
just missed. Look what you just,
Oh yeah. Yeah, because one of the biggest mistakes you can make with SHOT Show, snobs out there, he'll 100% confirm what I'm saying, and so will Chris from the 740 or 740. Yeah, the biggest mistake you can make with SHOT is just dismissing it, putting it off, and thinking you're not ready when you need to get your butt out there. But anyway, yeah, what else you got?
Okay,
Said you had
so
a
the
couple
next
more
one
points.
we had full time. I don't think anybody requires anybody to be full time. I don't think even the whatever you consider
I
a full
would
time
ask full
content
time with
creator
what?
isn't full time because it's not a full time gig. It's something that takes a portion of your full time effort, but there's so much going on with the internet and content creation. You can be a full time content creator, sure, but you're not like a full time YouTuber. Very few people bother with that.
Yep.
Like you're a full time content creator, but that's time spent on lots of different platforms in
Hmm.
2023.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Full time is in what aspect? Because earlier this month, I had the laptop go down, so the editing capability of stuff with the normal produce things, pretty much it all went away, and so I did a pivot, and it's like I got these other projects, so I'll turn and I'll turn into these other projects in the meantime, which has worked out like gangbusters, but um I've got to get the normal stuff, back up, rebooted, and going. Don't get me wrong, but full time as then you devote everything to one little project of your content creation, or full time as in no matter what you're doing, it's always related to that overall goal, the overall theme of the content creation. And the latter there, I think, is the healthier aspect because. Um, Especially right now. Right now on YouTube is a horrible. In fact, I had a back and forth yesterday with one of my guys from YouTube, and oh man, the complaints they're getting and everything else across the board on YouTube with revenue and views and all of that. It's crazy, and it's dog days of summer. It's back to school, and interests are shifting, and football season starting, and people are. I mean, it's a crazy time, and it's that way every year. It gets back to the experience and the cycles. It's that way every year. Some years worse than others, kind of like a hurricane season or anything else. But if you understand that, and I did going into when the laptop went down, it's like, oh, this sucks from having to spend money to content production on that side or whatever being down. But at the same time, knowing what I know, which is, again is an important thing of becoming a little more advanced, is like it couldn't have happened in a better month. Now I can pivot over to something else. It's not like this is going to absolutely kill my YouTube because there's a whole lot going on YouTube right now.
So we could be going off on tangents here for sure. But I'll just move on to the next one. The size of the catalog, size of your library, size of your uh, portfolio, whatever it would be. I don't know what you call it on a podcast, size of your, whatever. The number of items that you've got out there. Is that an attribute? Once you reach a certain number, are you advanced, like it or not? Or can you still be an amateur with thousands and thousands of pieces of content out there?
I think you can, and I think you see that. Um, it's like I said. If you get to, if you plateau and you don't increase your knowledge base, you don't increase your support to get feedback, support structures to get feedback from other people, colleagues, whatever, that really do care, um, then you're stuck on that plateau. And while you're building a big, huge catalog, which can still be beneficial, don't get me wrong, that can be beneficial to viewers out there and everything else. Um, yeah, I think you get stuck in a rut, and I think being stuck in a rut is not you're not advanced if you're getting stuck in a rut. Like I'm trying to think of an analogy, but it's like
If you
whatever
just
the
do the
race.
same thing over and over, driving back and forth to the mailbox and putting 10,000 miles on your vehicle doing that isn't the
Yeah,
same experience as a 10,000-mile adventure.
right. Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I was going to say the tractor pull guy that gets stuck in the mud all the time, all the time, all the time. Yeah, you wouldn't necessarily call that him an advanced professional tractor pull driver, right? Like, so, um, yeah, something to be said for that. But there are and there are little things you can pick up on if somebody's got a larger catalog. You're a prime example of this because you've deleted more videos than most people have produced. Um, but the thing with these videos is the way that he categorizes and organizes, right? And that shows advancement. Like an advanced person would just be creating stuff, throwing it up, throwing it up, throwing it up, and not giving thought to I need structure to my catalog, right? Whether we're talking about a Sears catalog from the past, we're talking about old school people that are out there, the younger, are like, what's a catalog? Um, so a big, huge book with all kinds of things in it, right?
It's like
But
if you printed out the internet and sent it around to people by
yeah,
UPS.
exactly, yeah. But the Sears catalog would come and it was in sections, and you always knew I could flip to the tools, or I could flip to the sports and outdoors, or I could flip to the men's shoes or whatever, right? And that catalog is laid out in sections that makes it easier navigable by the people looking for certain things. And so Yuji, as a content creator, understand that concept, and they're organizing. You've got lots of videos, but it's not just the volume. You've now organized those into have those organized into sections, and you do series and that sort of thing. Way different than I'm just going to crank out a bunch of videos. And you may not have had. Well, I know for a fact you've had direction going into it. As I say, you don't necessarily even have to have direction going into something like that. But at
No, you
some
can
point you
always organize
realize,
the file. It's easy to
at
organize.
some point you realize, oh crap, I got 500 videos. I could do a playlist on these revolvers. I could do a playlist on shotguns. I could do this. I could organize, do that, right? And you start organizing that stuff. That's an advanced mentality, I think.
So is number of platforms a factor in being an advanced content creator in 2023? Can you be an advanced content creator on one or a few platforms anymore?
I wouldn't say advanced. I would say specialized in that case. And I think that there's a very similar vibe, a similar feel, and a similar understanding. But personally, I would not call that advanced. I think to be advanced um, is it has
If
some
you're going to go
nomenclature
up
or
to the
whatever.
number one TikToker who doesn't even use Instagram or YouTube because they're so good on the TikToking that they're not even advanced. We're talking about Gizzard, of course.
Yeah, like I said, I wouldn't call it. I would call it a different like a different branch of the tree or something. I would say that they're a specialist almost, and I wouldn't call it an advanced content creator. I would say specialist because how many do we know that do awesome on one platform, but then they don't on another, right? It's not like they're consistently decent or consistently bad or consistently good on all. Um, so there's definitely some nuance there. But it's kind of like I said, if you're all in on one platform, and this is gets in, to me, this gets into, and again, this is personal opinion, but this gets into an advanced content, part of the advanced content creator mentality for me is understanding that each platform is going to have drawbacks. They're going to have issues. They're going to have cycles within the year, whatever. And what can I do to help mitigate when those lulls in the cycles present? But then this platform over here, which I may not do as good on this platform over here in the good times, but when YouTube gets crappy, right? No matter what I do on YouTube, it's gonna be crappy because it's that time of the year or whatever. Well, guess what? I can shift over to this platform over here, and compared to YouTube in good times, yeah, it's a waste of time to drop YouTube and go do that. However, I get that lull in YouTube, I'm advanced enough to go, wait a minute, lull in YouTube's coming. I need to shift over here, or I'm gonna shift over here and work off of this platform now because this platform is going to give me a little more ROI, a little more bang for my buck. Not ROI in the sense of money, but ROI in the sense of time.
Just like you go
This
fishing
platform over here.
sometimes, you go hunting sometimes, you go fishing for this sometimes, you go fishing for that
Mhm.
other times, right? You don't just
Yeah.
do one.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, some people do one, but then they don't expect to feed the family for the year by just doing one. You do one, you know, you're successful or not. You're allowed to do that. It's a hobby, right? You're allowed to just go
Yeah.
off of
And it can
sport.
help. And it can help. We've talked about this before. It can help alleviate frustration, right? Because you're frustrated with, no matter what I do, this low cycle in YouTube, and you get frustrated with that, and
Well,
that can aggravate the whole burnout situation and everything else. So sometimes moving over to
or
something else.
alleviate the burnout by knowing that there's a waste of time over here because nothing's going to happen when everybody's on summer vacation. But
Mm.
if you're doing like you're talking about, maybe you're doing some short format something over here on another platform, and then, oh, what do you know? You can also, when you get around to it, shove that over on YouTube as shorts. So now you get like bang for your buck, right? Double bang for your buck.
Uh-huh. Repurpose capability. Yeah, absolutely.
So, all right, so we're talking advanced, and we've been going through some of the initial question was, what do you consider an advanced content creator? What characteristics are required to be put you in the category of an advanced content creator in 2023? Because it'd have been different even 5 years ago, for sure. But, maybe even just fewer than that. But 10 years ago, it would have been totally different, much smaller realm, much smaller.
Well,
Before that, it wasn't even really a thing yet.
pre-cough cough, during cough cough, and post cough cough, even, which hadn't been the last 2 or 3 years, right? There's been major shifts just within that small time frame, and
Sure.
it's
Well, then it's been
because of
crazy.
viewer habits more than anything. But
Well, I
yeah,
think it's mostly because of this show has disrupted the whole industry in such a way that we've taken people who didn't understand their value, and we've given them the ability to rise with their own power to levels that were unseen. It's just
well,
disrupted the
you
entire
know,
industry.
when
We're
you
not
get
sorry
paid,
about it. It just happens.
when you
We're
get
just
paid
happy to make it better.
thousands, yeah, when you get paid thousands of dollars an hour to produce a podcast like this, that's bound to happen. Gee,
Imagine what it would be like if I was spending thousands of dollars. I would give Clover hundreds an hour if I was making thousands an hour easily.
this is a true
So
story.
the next one is comfortable creating. Is that a necessity to be an advanced content creator? Can you still be stumbling through it? Can you still be hesitant? Can you still be shy? Can you still be, I don't know, busy? Well, I don't know what else is it, but
I think you can.
comfortable.
I think you can, but I think there has to be a certain amount of comfortable, and comfortable is going to come with repetition. Um, I say all the time, like public speaking, and it blows people's minds because I talk so much, and especially online like this. Um, but public speaking is not something I enjoy. It's not something that I feel that I'm good at. Um, but every situation I've ever been in where I've had to do things like that in front of lots and lots and lots of people live, like in a room looking at you live. Um, I mean, I've been able to do it. I don't want to say I was comfortable with it, right? But I've been able to do it. And so I think there's degrees of that. I think everybody becomes with repetition in some way. Yeah, I've become more comfortable with it because I'm able to do it, right? Like I've realized the fact, and there's some comfort in going, okay, I know I can, even though I don't like this doing it, and physically I don't, or mentally I don't feel comfortable at the time. Like I know I can do it, and again, there's some comfort in that. So it's yeah, it's kind of a nuanced thing. I don't know that you have to be completely laid back and okay with every single thing. And we should be learning new things all the time and stepping out and trying new things and experimenting and stepping out of our comfort zones.
That's a good point. People that
And I
have
think
no,
that's another thing.
people that are in their comfort zone are stagnant. They just sit there,
Yep.
right? They rarely move. I
Yeah.
don't think I don't think comfortable creating is the same as comfortable on camera or comfortable with publicity or public eye or whatever that's called. Um, I think
Comfortable with the
comfortable creating,
idea of putting content out, kind of is what you're
comfortable with the idea that you have value, that your position,
Yeah.
your point of view is of value to the group, and that you are justifiable and in doing correctly by contributing and taking that initiative and the basic skills that are necessary to create at some level, whether or not you're ambitious. I think comfortable creating is, yeah, just to be an advanced content creator. You don't have to be comfortable at all with any of the live or the public side of it or any of that stuff, and you can still be. I mean, there's definitely channels out there that are exploiting that you don't know who they are. I mean, it's hard to know who they are. I mean, I don't. I know that they exist, but know who they are. I'm not interested in trying to do the forensics on it, but I bet you it'd be difficult. So you can definitely have lots of success in lots of realms, either huge size, like subscriber size. I've seen some massive channels that are literally run by robots. I'm not even fucking kidding. Like that are just literally robot channels. Somebody probably outside of our industry or some unscrupulous person in our industry that understands, what to plug into a robot and then how to schedule those videos. But there's some massively huge channels, and I suspect some of them getting paid. I don't know that because I don't care to go research it. But just by, like Clover said, you'll just be minding your business and you'll discover this behemoth channel comes floating by, and it's bloat. It's a suburban sprawl of YouTube. They'll take stuff that can be engineered, and now there's robots that can engineer some good ass shit. It's just not good. It's just looks good, right? It looks like a real video on the surface, and it just says a bunch of words. Revolvers are round and they have circular cylinders. It just says stuff, and people will watch it. I don't know why, but anyway, comfortable creating. I think to combat that, we need more and more just citizen creators. Like the person that doesn't need to have it all, just feels like being part of it. I don't know, Clover, you've been around for a while. What's the percentage of people that just did it on a lark and stuck around and then potentially were a major influence on the industry, on the community?
Very few.
I was going to say a chunk. Like, man, maybe technically very few, but there's a chunk.
Well, you said stuck around. When you said stuck around, it's like, ooh.
I guess stuck around depends on how
way
long
few
you've been
people.
stuck around. But longer than they thought. Stuck around longer than they thought. Did it on a lark, and then it turned out to be something they were comfortable with and liked, and then stuck around. And then a couple of them started hosting shows. I mean, I've been around through some different eras of live shows, and it was, had more popularity than it does now, kind of thing. Nowadays, it seems like the live shows are predominantly one person is sitting there saying stuff like we're doing right now, and then a bunch of people are saying stuff in the comments. Back in the day, it was more, let's bring, like Chris does. Chris from 740 is awesome, and Gizzard. Let's bring 12 people in and have a real conversation. And then the people in the other thing are putting part of it and contributing to it. But, you're getting 12 points of view, or like what Hillbilly does, like big conversations. That was the old internet, or the original chats or whatever back in 2011.
And you've got a little more insight on that because of gun channels. I mean, you had the membership roster, and you could, I'm sure, compare that to the number of people that came
I would
out of
only have
something like
those
that.
momentarily before I gave them to the FBI. Like I barely
Well, this
had
is
a
true.
chance to
Yeah.
take a picture of those for the
Well, this
Communist
is true.
Party before I sent them to the FBI.
Yeah, duly noted. But so
Um,
you had some actual tangible data to go, well, we had so many members that did so many live streams, and then all of
1
these people
million
around doing
views a month. That's the only thing I remember anymore. So 1
Yeah.
million views a month is essentially what people would jump on and hang out. So however long, and how many people were on gun channels? Thousands. So that's a bunch of
Yeah.
people jumping out and hanging out and fucking around, since they only get really one page view if they're just sitting. Anyhow, production value is one that was finally off of my points from before. The original question was, what attributes, what characteristics would you say to be an advanced content creator? So Jeff put production value.
You
Because I
know,
think
at
you can pay
some
for
point,
production value and you can just be good. Like you can be savvy or just have studied and you can buy the right stuff and you can have production value right out the gate and be
yeah,
nothing but ums and ahs, or maybe you pick a horrible subject matter like 9mm. Great production value, but it's a fad caliber and nobody's going to want to watch it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And how much production value is, fake it till you make it, or is actually done by that creator? Because right, I mean, you're right. You could farm out the production. You could farm out. I don't know. There's just so much room there, right? That it's not necessarily tied to the creator. If we're talking about doing it ourselves, yeah. But even then, production value, that's subjective. I mean, I can think of several channels that that make me question my production value. Like I'm doing it wrong. Like I'm setting up a tripod and I'm trying to get a good frame and good um, lighting and all this, and these people are just literally holding their phone selfie style and going out on the range and like they're freaking crushing it. And to me, and this is not, I haven't mentioned any names, so this is not knocking any of those channels of our great friends, but you, it's like their production value is crap. It's garbage. It's like literally selfie mode, like some teenager do it. It's like, what the crap? Um, so with the subjective nature of production value, that's a difficult one to nail down as far as advanced. What I like to think about it is that production value, yes, in the sense of you're advanced enough to understand that you may not necessarily need the best camera, the best lighting, the best stability, the whatever, right? The best framing, you know, um, because you're to the point that you understand your audience, you understand your analytics, you understand all this other stuff, and you're like, I really don't have to put my time in that. Like, why polish everything where it looks like a major motion picture, or something, when I can take the time I would spend on that and put that time into some other project or some other part of this project. And so I think the understanding of production value and where that line needs to be for your channel, yes, in that sense, I think I would agree. As far as it being polished and shiny, I don't know that I go that route with it.
Yeah, I think your production value is a factor, is like a variable based on what your goal is for the channel. And if, for example, you want to do great stuff that you're going to be able to have finished product that's high definition, then you might as well start with production value right from the go. But if your end result is going to be an audio podcast, then production value can be just adequate sound collection, right? Like, and you can move on. Um, but this is 2023, and I've definitely seen people who are just paying somebody who knows what they're doing. Nothing wrong with paying people who are experts in their field, getting high quality stuff. As a result, you're still going to get a level of experience doing it that way, and you'll gather. Let's put it this way. I don't know if you mentioned this. I was poking around while you were chatting, so I don't think you addressed this, but production value, you get what you sow, right? So if you're putting out um, a $10 product and you're putting out a $100 product, you're going to get $10 customers and you're going to get $100 customers, and $10 customers, are different than $100 customers. So if you put out a high production level and then falter, that can be more consequence than with a different audience and production value falters, right? If you know what I mean? I don't know. So there's, I think, something to production value that you're going to set a standard, you're going to collect an audience. If your production value includes like on the road, I don't know, coverage of the event with a drone, let's say, you're
Yeah.
going to need to kind of keep that standard of production up. Otherwise,
Yeah.
people who came there to see the drone coverage are going to move on because they were looking for drone
You're
coverage.
I think what you're getting at it when as you're saying that, there's a phrase that comes to mind, which is high risk, high reward, right?
Okay, yeah.
Kinda. So yeah, like if you put all
So
this
you could
time
put all that
into,
into it, and then yeah, if people don't appreciate it, yeah. But if they only appreciated that, then you're kind of on that. That's your thing now.
Yep.
So
Right.
efficient process. Uh,
Yeah.
it's definitely a characteristic that you're
Oh,
gonna,
yeah.
or I mean, it's a thing you're gonna get probably.
Yeah, from experience, from skill building, yeah, repetition, yeah, all of that's going to play a role for sure in the efficiency.
So we're kind of blowing through some of these, but if we're missing a nuance or an angle on those, feel free to, once we're live still. So that guy's wife, Media, some lady, says the knowledge they have when they present it, also the ability to pivot on what's needing to be addressed. So, what is that, like savvy? Like being able to, when we're talking, I'm thinking audience, right? Like being live, like being able to have,
Yeah, just on the
get
fly.
comfortable. Yeah.
Yeah, being able to BS your way through stuff sometimes, quite honestly.
Well, I guess, knowing when to shut up sometimes is like, okay, yeah, we could go on and on about the details here, but the show is about this. So, yeah, we're going to let that tangent go, you know.
Yep.
And it's not like we learn this by being always having the right answers. We learn that by taking a show that's supposed to be about revolvers and then turning it into like some horrible topic for, lever action, or I mean, revolving rifles or something, for 45 minutes. And then it gets back to revolvers at the last minute, hastily, never really addresses the topic. And you kind of, trash that one, especially if it was part of a series or something. And that's just the danger of well, that's usually live. Something like that could happen. But again, that's how we learn that stuff, right? Is by experiencing those and then going, okay, how we stop that by cutting these things off before we go too far. Jeff brings up growth of your tribe of other creators and a support network. I think you kind of alluded to that one
Yeah.
earlier. So advanced level, that implies that you can't get to advanced level. Does this imply that you can't get to advanced level without support, without others?
Man, that's a good question. I
Well,
don't
like you
think
just said,
we
it has to be
could.
no, because or I'm saying people can definitely get to the top by just following some recipe. Because I keep finding people like you just said that are at the top. Like, I don't know if you call them at the top, but 250,000 subscribers. Never
Hmm.
heard of them before. Their
So,
channel is essentially empty, and it's just
right.
got a whole bunch of videos that have been up there since like 2015 or whenever. Like people jumped in these different cycles, and some people
Yeah.
just quietly machined their way to 250,000
I,
subs, and half the time they're not doing anything with it. They're just sitting there with
mhm.
250,000 subs.
Yeah, I know. So I tend to gravitate toward can you without the tribe, without, support network. I gravitate toward no. Um, and the reason is I've seen those channels you're talking about. I know many of them at this point, and so that, in a sense, a lot of the ones I know that pulls them into the support network a little bit. I'm a part of their support network now, in a way. Um, so outside looking in, you see a big channel like that, and you immediately, it goes back to, because of numbers, you assume they're advanced. But then the problem is once you reach out and you make contact, you're like, wow, okay, that was a cool video. I didn't even know you existed. And then the next thing you know, you're texting back and forth, or you meet up at a show and talk, or you do this or that, and you realize real quick that, man, I've got whatever it is, 16,000 subs. They've got 300,000 subs, and they're asking me questions about crap. Well, that tells me that they're not advanced, or that gives the perception anyway that they're not advanced, at least not as advanced as their numbers would seemingly make them look, I guess. So
You can
that's
be
why I say
giant
I
and
err
basic,
on.
right?
It's not that they're not successful, right? Like, you can be successful, I mean, and not be an advanced content creator. That's definitely a thing.
Right. I can't get that thing to say thanks to Ron Wayne for that one. So, and then New York Outcast is out there. Ghost is joining us. Okay. So, for the sake of time, this could be another conversation. But I think we've hit
Is that
the
added to the
basics.
advanced topics? Talking about the
Well, we have
support network.
community building, which is a
Okay,
little
that
different, I
that'll
think,
work.
than the support structure. A support structure of your peers is different than a community
It is true.
engaged in an
And
objective.
realizing the difference
Oh,
between
and then I
your
guess I always think
the
of this
viewers
as
and
like,
your colleagues is a big difference too. And a
yeah, I
lot of
think
big
of this
channels
as
they don't get that.
well, I think of when you think of that differentiation, I also am usually thinking of activists slash involved people because audience, just people sitting down in a chair with some popcorn to watch your antics. I guess we should put a caveat at the beginning when we say we're talking to Second Amendment activists. For the most part, meaning we're slanting not just to we're not going to shy away from the gun talk and how to deal with guns and with specifically with social media in 2023, but just in culture and having the relevant and useful discussions in 2023. But also the idea that there's it's different than the person who's just going to use guns as a gimmick to get eyeballs and views and is satisfied to just gain eyeballs and views because the tactics that we're going to talk about here will acknowledge those and compare to those, but we're not really offering strategies to just get eyeballs. You can go figure that out yourself or pay us a bunch of money, I guess, if you want. I'll show you how to do it if you want to pay me for it, but that's not really what we're addressing here. So I just want to put that caveat out there. When we're
Yeah.
talking about the audience, we're talking about an audience of potential people who give a shit, who are doing something, efforting for, or all individually. What's the word? Activists who are each doing something, or content creators supporting each other. But what we're talking about, I think here, the differentiation is with peers, so like, me and Clover being off air talking about whether or not this show worked out well and whether we should keep doing it or not versus what we're doing now, interacting with everybody, right?
Yeah, yeah, and there those lines cross. Like I can watch a big huge channel. I can be a viewer of a big huge, and it works the same way. The big huge channel can watch my content. That doesn't make them and yes, that makes them a consumer of my content, or I'm a consumer of their content, or a viewer, or whatever. But at the end of the day, the buck stops at we're both creators, we're both colleagues, and so that's what I was saying earlier. That a lot of the big creators, man, I mean, never meet your heroes type situation, right? I mean, you meet some of these big creators, and you're putting out content and doing all the things and working with the same companies and everything else, and they just look down their nose like you're just a viewer or whatever. And so that's why I say to people that are content creators, and it takes a while to get to that point. I'm not going to lie, but get out of the meet your heroes mentality with other content creators. I mean, see them as the colleagues that they are, not yourself as a viewer and then some big huge channel that you absolutely idolize at all costs. Um, I think that's a dangerous play, and most creators, I think that's a key to being advanced. Since we're talking about that, that's at some point you advance to where you realize that. I think most creators are standing long enough, they buckle down, they start to get serious, and they go to these events and they actually see the real people than the other things. You start putting two and two together, and you start realizing, oh, okay, there's some dude on the internet making videos the same as me. It's just they've been more successful, whether it's with the numbers or whatever, than I have in their genre or whatever at this point than I am. So um, yeah.
Right on. So I'm putting together a poll over here, and the next one came up from Gizzard, along with that guy's wife, or along with what Armand had said, the ability to adapt and to a changing environment, taking advantage of multiple platforms, trends, etc. I think we kind of talked about this, right? But adaptability.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Being able to pivot and whatnot. Absolutely.
We can talk long enough. I'm trying to put together a poll.
Oh,
So,
well, I recognize that gets into again being able to recognize patterns, and we talked about very early in the podcast here or whatever about that, but being able to recognize, pick up on patterns and recognize things, and seeing that, oh man, things are starting to get bad, and instead of freaking out, going, oh, okay, well, this is a common thing, where can I shift the time that I would normally shift into this because it's obviously not worth it now. Where can I now shift this over to better maximize the return on my effort, more or less?
Right on. So thanks. So there's the poll out there. I just took four of the top question or four of the top responses and put them in a poll over on my channel. We're broadcasting this or simulcasting this on the Daily Gun Show channel, just so it's out there. Then on GunTuber Academy, and then on the main Gun Websites channel. So the next one is your wife saying, don't be afraid to learn new stuff and take criticism, but avoid the trolls. I think that's one of those basics that's going to apply throughout, and you're going to get different new stuff. You're going to get different criticism, and you're going to get different trolls, right? And the trolls come out of nowhere. I don't know how often you've had allies go, you know what, fuck you, and then just stab you and walk off, or slice you and walk away. But, time on the clock, that happens. Is he muted? I don't know if he's saying stuff. But...
I'm getting back to the mute button. Yeah, I mean the trolls are come in varying shapes and sizes, without a doubt. And I don't know, it stings a little worse when you have a colleague that comes in as a troll. The whole people in glass houses type mentality a lot of times, but the average just drive-by, I call them drive-by trolls, like that. You've never seen them on the channel, you've never seen them comment on another video, and oftentimes it happens on shorts, which that's all they're possibly watching. Is they can't even be bothered enough to search on YouTube or click categories or browse a homepage. They hit a feed and literally scroll through a feed. So you got to consider the source. And some of them, the vast majority are not even worth engaging. Sometimes it offers the opportunity for our humor, for self-deprecation and self-deprecating humor and things like that, which kind of show your resilience to other people that may be looking at those content or those comments. So, sometimes I will engage in that way. Because that can be a thing. The vast majority of people that view your stuff, will never leave a comment. Let's be honest. The next group of people that will leave a comment are not trolls. Trolls are a very, very small portion of the folks out there that you're going to be engaging with anyway. But even so, I wouldn't say just nix, delete that comment and go on. Now I've got I've got a long list, actually, not a certain set of blocked words that I don't even allow on my channel, because I don't even want things to start going down those roads. And so oftentimes troll stuff, it never sees the light of day on my channel anyway. But every now and then I'll reply to something with a smart aleck comment, or, like I said, self-deprecating humor or something. And a lot of times I'll even pin that post. And it's just to show everybody else, like, hey, look at this moron, look at this, because everybody can recognize a troll, let's be honest. And, others being able to see how you deal with trolls, I think sometimes, can actually play in your favor.
Yeah, I gave up caring too much about that a long time ago, but I hear what you're saying. There's definitely things to learn. You're going to get your own trolls. Like I say, they're different. So I'm sure a troll nowadays is different kinds
Well,
of
at some point,
different kinds of stuff.
At some point, G-Webs, when you're as popular as you are and you get like 40,000 comments a day, I mean, you can't be bothered with it at all. So we understand.
Oh, I don't get that many anymore. But yeah, there was a time when if I wasn't sitting down and, so that'll just happen. You get a viral video and you'll get a bunch of them, unless you want to just let weird stuff be on your channel. You're going to go through and remove garbage and weird stuff. So, but I mean, there's over years, there's just so many types of trolls. There's just when we're talking that we're essentially saying person who's weird or annoying online, what we're saying. So there's just so many ways of people doing that, that could be a whole nother conversation, really, right? Snob is saying that's like a channel with 100. Oh, you made up a point here that's going to be two things because it took a minute to say it. But when we were chatting about one of the aspects earlier in the show. His comment was it's like a small channel with 100 subs and 10 videos getting a shout out from a huge channel versus someone who's been doing it for a while and collaborating with a large channel. The one is going to get further than the other. People will want to run to you after the collaboration versus potentially just pity subs when you get that shout out. And again, the kind of person that's going to go sub a channel that everybody, whenever they say, hey, go sub, the person that goes and subs, they're sub to a bunch of different channels, right? YouTube is going to, they're not stupid, they're going to weight that differently than someone who discriminates on who they're going to sub to. They only sub to a few channels, when they want to, kind of thing. So that's one of the ways you can think about the system. If you're trying to get people who only sub to a few people to sub to you, you're probably going to weight differently to YouTube than somebody who gets everybody to sub to everybody.
And subs doesn't matter anyway, in this sense. In that, you're right. Whether it's a pity sub or they enjoyed hearing you on that Bigger Channels podcast or whatever. They enjoyed that particular session, but they've got no intentions of going over and watching your stuff. And if that's the case, you're better off with them not subscribing because, if you look, the vast majority of views you get on your content is going to be from people who aren't subscribed anyway. The subscribed count is just it's a more of a metric that has a little more to do with a little better loyalty tier, maybe is what I'm getting at to your channel. Is a subscriber metric more than size or growth indication or anything like that. But there's so much that goes into the whole idea of shout outs. It's almost like sub per sub or some kind of BS that has been a thing that worked on YouTube at one time, and for some reason now people still think that works. And don't get me wrong, even nowadays, if you had a video that got picked up by a major news outlet or something, you're probably going to catch traction off of that, right? That would be, but that's more, it went viral and I got a shout out, right? I can't tell you the number of channels, the Gun Snob included, by the way, who's larger than me, who I collaborate with, who we do things, who I help out, who I get mentioned on their channel. And this has been for years and years and years and years now. I'm talking about when I was 200 or 300, 500 subscribers. I was hanging out in podcasts and other things with channels that were tens of thousands, if not in the low, hundreds of thousands. And the amount of followers I gained, subscribers, other things is negligible, minimal at best. And a lot of that has to do with even if you collab, even if it's a straight up collab rather than a straight up collab rather than just a shout out. Does your advanced nature of content creation, the better job you're doing on your channel and everything, does that help the amount you can get from that? Yeah, absolutely. Sure, it can. But there has to be an alignment with audience as well. Just because that person does firearm content, and it may be the exact same type stuff, it's like they do lever actions and revolvers, and you do as well. But their audience may be just weirdo people compared to what, and I'm not saying weirdo in a bad way, but meaning that they're that much different. They seem like weirdos because they're that much different in what they talk about and everything else in the side chats and in the comments than what you're used to with your audience. And when that's the case, you're not going to pull that many over. And so that's one of those things, like I said, that whether it's tags in the description, I mean tags in the video metadata or sub per sub or any of these tactics that years ago people used on YouTube, the whole idea of shout outs and collaborations is, for the most part, is overplayed. Now, is there room for collaboration if you're paying attention to the overall goal? And if you are talking about collaborations between advanced creators that understand their viewer demographics and they understand their video styles, and they're able to mesh those in a way to better get a return on those collaborations, I think yes, I think there is room there. But like I said, by and large, I think that's one of the. I think that's a YouTube myth at this point, more than it's true.
All right. Well, Clover's fallen into the YouTube trap, so I'm just gonna put that out there that like, hey, there's probably a whole nother show we could do or a whole conversation somebody could have about, this aspect on different platforms because it's different on different platforms, I think. But I'm not going to disagree with you or nothing. I'm just saying I think there's differences on the different platforms for that.
Yeah.
But
Well,
the way you address that one.
I typically speak in terms of YouTube, so
Yeah, and
yeah.
we're here on YouTube. But for sake of 90 minutes in or whatever, Gunpowder Beauty says, when recording videos, do you just upload same video to different platforms or create different videos? I'm going to say, obviously, I answered everything as it depends, but sometimes if you understand that's the goal, then you can record in such a way that yes, you can just upload, meeting the parameters or whatever of each one, or the slot that you're trying to, the needle you're trying to thread on each one.
Yeah, the only thing that gets problematic is maybe what they call subscribe, some call follow, and that sort of stuff. So if you're doing any calls to action, that's more so where it gets problematic, I think. Doing the
So
same video
strategically
across
leaving some
platform.
things out can
Yeah,
make it kind of generic, but then it also makes it just fit right into every platform. And then
it
yes, you
can,
can.
but did being going back to being YouTube centric, right? In a way, it's going to hurt you on it. And end cards is one of those things, like pushing to end cards, verbal, active call to action push, deliberate videos up in end cards. Thinking about that before you ever hit record on the video you're making, like what can I say in this video that I can then push to another video? Um, that doesn't work on other platforms because other platforms, Rumble, Full 30, Brighteon, whatever, Odyssey, whatever, um, Gunstreamer, GunTube, um, those don't offer end cards, right? So that sounds weird, but I think it's minimal, and I think there's a few reasons it's the drawback is minimal. Number one, by the time you get to the point of the end screen in that situation, that specific situation, by the time you get to that point, um, the vast majority of your viewers have dropped off already anyway. I mean, go look at your analytics. It's yeah. The other thing is the alternative platforms to YouTube. People are aware that's an alternative platform to YouTube. So there's a certain amount, I think, of understanding there when they hear, oh, click, there'll be a card up in the corner, or some kind of thing to an end screen, or maybe you say subscribe instead of follow. Like, I think it's just, I think it, for most viewers in those situations, I think it just flies right by them because they're used to the exact same content being repurposed on other platforms. I think it's a norm, and they're just accustomed to it.
Gunpowder Beauty is also saying TikTok. I think I can do 5 or 10 minutes of video where it used to be like 30 seconds, maybe a minute, and they'll definitely change to compete with each other. We're engaging in a war right now, or watching. Yeah, we're engaging in a war. We played sides on a war with Amazon and TikTok. There's been wars between YouTube and Facebook, wars between Instagram and the TikToks. I mean, I don't know. There's wars all over the place with these platforms and what's trending and where they can figure out to put a lucrative ad, who's buying, when people are buying. I don't know. I can't even imagine the boardrooms or the war rooms for these kind of battles. I don't know if Clover has anything that one. We'll keep moving. What is a good option for linking your social media accounts together? I want to say we'll do that as a tech question on a future show, but in a nutshell, I think the best thing to do is have a website that's yours, or your own presence on the internet, which is essentially three things. It's a web domain name, like whatever it ever is .com or something. Like you got to pay for that to one place, and that can cost you, I think nowadays it's maybe, let's say, $20 a year safely. And then you buy a computer that's just turned on all the time, and that's where your website is going to post to, point at. And it's just a computer that's on all the time. They call it a server. So that computer that's on all the time, you can go to a place called 2A Web Hosting. That's guntube.org's web hosting. They do Tony Simon's website. They do a bunch of different websites out there. And then once you've pointed people to this website that's turned on, you need some kind of software there. And a lot of people use WordPress as that software. It's an open source software, meaning that a lot of people can see the code. There's nothing crazy going on there. It's very useful and secure. And there's so many people using it that you get a lot of support and help from just people a lot of times. So that's the three elements of a website. The reason I explain that is because we're about to talk about that here, about something else in a second. But with that understanding, on that WordPress website that you put together with those three elements, the website part, the WordPress is free. The server, I don't know what Night Strike charges, but let's say a couple $100 a year, $20 a year, so a couple of $250 a year these days. I have no idea if that's a good price or not, so don't quote me on that. But let's say some amount of money. Then you own this website, and you can put a page on your website where you link to all your different social medias. You can track that, and you own that, and that would be, I guess, ideal. And the next best thing would be not necessarily the next best thing. An alternative is one of those link tree feature systems that lets you plug in a bunch of links, and then sometimes they'll offer you analytics and fancy ways to send people to different platforms. But typically, in 2023, you're going to want some hierarchy of links that's on one splash page that becomes called a funnel to your other network, your other social platforms, your other entities online. And that way you would use that same link everywhere. Like if you went, you'd put that as your link on Twitter and on whatever it's called, and Instagram and on YouTube and on every place else. And that way you're keeping those links, and you're 100% in control of what that's going to look like. I don't know if Clover has a different answer to that.
No, I would just say what I was going to say about that whole thing is you've got so many folks that are gurus or whatever that are they're even bigger channels and things that push the whole link tree, blah 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 blah. And it's like I think they're really missing the boat at having their own website because of all the things you talked about, plus just the things you can do when you have control over all that.
Yeah, once you have your own website, you have your own blog, you have your own server, you have your own software, you have everything you need to do lots and lots of like newsletters, and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, the email lists are amazing, especially when you get into revenue, affiliate marketing, some of the other stuff. Yeah, for sure.
So Gunpowder Beauty asks, what are some options y'all had great experiences for using websites? Like I just mentioned there, you need the domain name. You can buy that from different places, but you need to buy that, and it's a yearly thing. So a lot of times they'll give you the first year cheap, and then you pay for it every year. So I don't know how many Clover has, but a lot of people own a lot of them over time. So, somethingother.com. Like, for example, I got guncalendars.com. That's one domain name. Then there's askgunquestions.com, another domain name, right? Gun websites, another domain name. I got a bunch like that. So each one of those is a different account, a different thing that you pay for yearly. And then each one of those links to a server. Now, I have multiple servers thanks to our Patreons. We have giant servers that run multiple websites. But let's say 2 or 3 of the websites will point to this server. These other 3 websites point to that server. This system is running on that server. So best experiences, I'm going to say WordPress for that. I don't know if Clover's got experience with other things. Gizzard had mentioned Wix, Wix. I think Yankee Marshall uses that. I don't know anybody who uses Wix. Everybody I know uses WordPress pretty much.
Yeah, I use WordPress, and I have recently this year, finally, I'm not even going to mention the company I used for 20 plus years, but because I would not recommend them to anybody. but switched over to HostGator. It was one of my research and handling WordPress and the automated features and bang for the buck and a lot of different things. That was one of the best ones that for what I was doing, right? And this is where it comes with being advanced and kind of know what you're doing. Um, that was one of the best options for me, for me. So that's how mine's ran.
Yeah, HostGator is another one. Would be like a GoDaddy. I don't know if I can think of another big one anymore. If there's something that gets advertised during the Super Bowl, that'd probably be another one. Usually they're pretty big companies at this point. And I don't know. It's like buying a Ford or a Chevy. Like, okay, yeah, there might be a difference or two, but for the most part, you're in pretty decent shape. That's why everybody uses them. But if you need help specifically with that, either one of us can help you out with some experiences or what might be best for you or your budget, really. You get what you pay for always, right? So there's free options for everything, but scale and growth, you might want to have a little bit of thought before. If you really think you're going to grow or scale this thing, you might want to be on a place that you don't have to move it from the free to get to whatever, but that'd probably be another conversation. Going back to some part during one of the things we were talking about earlier, Jeff from Gear Report said, I think most start without having a ton of forethought. And then he continued with many continue without a ton of forethought. Yeah, so I talk about goals. So essentially, goals or lack thereof, is that a differentiation between an advanced and an amateur content creator? That could be almost a binary. You either have a goal or you don't. Can you kind of have a goal?
I think you could probably have a goal and not realize you have a goal.
Have like a bunch of goals, maybe,
So that
or
what would
have
that
like
be
a
like
loose
a
ambition towards a goal or something.
not unconscious, but well, maybe
Yeah, subconscious,
subconscious. Yeah,
interesting
maybe
something.
you've got it. Maybe subconsciously you have a goal. You're just not. Yeah, you haven't.
I think a lot of people were traumatized as youth and have a subconscious drive for this 9mm caliber all the time. But if they thought about it, they'd understand that it's fad caliber. It's going on. All right, so that's just kind of a point. I guess not a question so much. So well said. Considering, I think that's pretty good coming from Jeff. Let's see. We got Ozzy saying, I'm the king of horrible. That's why I'm 110 subs away from hitting the 100 subscribers. Nice. That's possible too, right? You could be at the point where like one day you're at 110, the next day you're at 0, or you've like lost subs somehow. Like, I don't know if that's possible, but I guess you could uh, be at a point where you fluctuate down to 0 subs.
Oh, I've seen people at what 500, or I've seen it at 100 subs before actually, and not in this community, but I've seen it recently with the trading card community. Do a pimp out a massive giveaway. They would have like maybe 20 or 30 subs. Pimp out this massive giveaway thing that they're going to do. Go live, do their giveaway, get to 120, 150 subscribers, and then like 3 days later, they're back to like below the subscribers they had when they ever started. You're like, yeah, that was pointless. You just gave away a bunch of stuff for like nothing, basically. And so that plays into be careful and strategic with what you try to do in the form of giveaways and things like that when it comes to subscriber growth.
So a couple of closing. I think we did pretty good, right, in the 90-minute mark at least. So thanks everybody for joining us. Had a great slew of questions. We'll kind of wrap up here with a couple of last points that came in, and then talk about this series that we're talking about here, or that we're just beginning. But your report again, Jeff says, I don't understand why so many people push the link tree. And I just think it's inexperience or unawareness. They don't realize that they could own that, and they don't understand the implications of giving all that data to Linktree. And like, most people don't value their data, or value not just the privacy, but the ownership of their own data, right? Like, that's something that is not brought up very often in just polite conversation, I guess. It's kind of like talking about money or something. We don't talk about it very often, but casual use of some of these platforms is essentially giving them all. You might as well just give them controls of your channel. Even if they don't have them, they can see so much of your use that they can might as well see. You know, they don't need to see your speedometer to they know you're going 45 miles an hour by watching your car go by, right? So they don't need to see your dashboard for that. So if you tell them to look at your account, a lot of times you're giving them so much data that they're not just selling, but I don't know. I just always would rather, you know, I don't know. Am I crazy for valuing the privacy of not using?
I don't think you are.
I am crazy.
I use both. I do not think you're crazy. I use both, but that's just me. I really only use and I use one called Link Bio, I think is what it's called.
Oh yeah, that being
Um,
said, I have 3 of them. I have a separate one on each because I'm testing them
yeah.
as though. That's my excuse. I just want to see if they
And
are good or whatever. But I
but
still have that thing.
I use that specifically for Instagram, and I don't think I use that for anything else. So everything else, I'll point to a website. I'll create a blog post, or I'll do this, or I'll do that. And I'm going to be honest. The reason I do it over on Instagram is it's being lazy. It's because it's just easier to do there than it is to go in and create a blog post and publish and link to that. And the URL is shorter, and got it. You know what I mean? It's right there, and people are used to clicking in the bio anyway. And it's just there's no navigation to it really, and it's I don't know. It's definitely because of ease of use and lazy is why I do it on Instagram. And but that again, that's the only place. I definitely value the website for, as Gunpowder Beauty was talking earlier, being the central hub and location that somebody hits that they can pretty much find anything and everything that they need to or want to find on the channel, about all the projects, and even friends projects and companies and other things. So
Now you've got a permanent place to send people with different areas, this, that, and the other, and you're having a conversation with somebody as a guest or just maybe a interviewee or something, or somebody asks you a question and can I follow up? Yeah, and then you can say, go to my website, go to the contact us page. Boom, like 2 steps. Everybody knows that it's not unfamiliar. Go to my website, go to the documents area, go to my website, go to my friends section. You'll find my friend Ghost. He can help you with that or whatever. So, that's something that once you've got those permanent places on the internet, you just become that much more competent and confident in sending people who might be listening to wherever it is you need to send them, right? Oh, you can go to my sponsor page and go down and the one company that sponsors me for a long time, they sell that product. You can get it from their website, and now you've sent them to a place that comes in from your website instead of just sending them, go to whatever show or go to whatever product and go on to Amazon and click on it, or go on the internet and click on the Google link. No, send them to your website, send them to your sponsored things. They go there from there and they find it. So anyway, that's some of the advantages of having or not using the link tree, I guess. Gearport says he went from HostGator to Bluehost, 2 different companies. Ford, Chevy, Dodge, they're not a big difference between them. They all kind of do the same things. And then Foss is saying, I play on the Pro-Am circuit. I like my amateur status, but I hang out with the pros. And I think that that's a decent way to look at it, really. There's people out there that are doing this with super ambition and a lot of effort, and then people that aren't, and pretty much, all doing it in the same realm, right? There's nothing, it's not like the pro sports and the amateur sports where they're not even near each other. This is all in the same YouTube. It's all in the same Instagrams. It's all on the same internet. All right, Clover's muted for that one. We'll
I was
oh, he has to jump out of here.
over
So
here a little bit.
this one was the fundamentals and the introduction to this thing. We're going to be talking about technical skills specifically for advanced content creators next week. So definitely bring any questions, getting the most out of your gear. Some of the stuff we talked about today, like website stuff, search engine optimization.
Yep.
There's ways to worry about search engines on other things besides your own websites and stuff.
Edits.
Editing, When we
Yeah.
talk about technical, we're talking about editing, software. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say editing, film technique, audio. There's a lot that we can cover in detail with that aspect of it. A lot of
Do it.
advanced stuff.
I'll be putting these things up. I hesitate to put them up right now because what happens on the YouTube side, when you put them all up right now, they all go into everybody's feed right now and they spam it and it's annoying. And when the week comes up for it to actually be seen, it's no longer a new video. It's some old ass video. So you're really not going to necessarily see it. So I'll drop these things, like relatively soon after today. I'll have next week's up. So in
Yeah.
other words, you'll have the opportunity to leave some comments in there if they come into mind during the week, and consider the comments there. Your notes, and we should be able to see those when we start the show and be able to have them to start from. Otherwise, just bring your comments if you show up live. If you're listening to this in the future before the next show, feel free to leave comments in here or questions or whatever you want us to address in that technical skills show. Beyond that, we'll talk monetization, community building, mental health and lifestyle, trends and future outlook, having special episodes, some advanced tactics, and then interviews will be the last one. We may not do them in that specific order, but those are the things that we'll address, all focused on the advanced content creator. As Clover said, we'll probably break up this series every once in a while for SHOT Show, as it's important or relevant to give everybody a heads up and keep you ahead of the game if you're planning on attending the world's largest shooting and hunting industry event. We're going to go after this. I don't know, I guess Clover ain't, but the rest of us will go after this. If people are interested in jumping into an off air, it's something we do maybe every other show or once a month, depending on how much interest there is in it. But we do offer an off air conversation, a specific Q&A with people if you're interested. Otherwise, I'll give the mic over to Clover and we'll end it.
I don't have a lot. I just, I'll do some shameless self promotion because, as we talked about, I've pivoted away from YouTube and a lot of things this month. But starting next week, the late 23 season of the podcast, it's scheduled out. 16 guests, pretty cool roster, I think, of guests powered by Monstrum Tactical. So 2 episodes a week with a couple of breaks in there for shows and some other things, but roughly 2 episodes a week. Every Wednesday, every Thursday, we'll record live, similar to what we do here, and then port that over into the replay audio podcast world and all that stuff. So, yep.
So are you saying you got to jump out and be back at the top of the hour, or you got to jump out at the top of the hour?
I need to jump out as soon as we pull the plug here for just a little bit and take care of some things. It's Tuesday, so it's Tuesday.
Let's say, if you want, I'll just keep.
But I'll be right back.
I'll just go ahead and do that. I'll keep doing this for like 10, 15 minutes, and then I'll end it so that when you are done with your stuff, you'll be back for the off air.
Yeah, whatever you want to do. So
Yeah,
bye,
ahead.
everybody. See you
Clover,
next week or whatever. Yeah.
Plus, I don't have enough money to play Clover for the last 15, 20 minutes of the show.
This is true because I do prorate those charges.
Oops. We're going to go to the description and dig in a little bit more because I am liking the idea of, one, addressing advanced content creators. Not everybody's starting out, and I don't think everybody appreciates how advanced y'all are. Doing a series will let us concentrate on each individual thing a little bit more in depth than when we just skim it all the damn time. So we're going to be, I think this one was fundamentals, the core principles of content creation, going back to basics for both beginners and veterans. I don't even think anybody needs a lecture on that. Building a content calendar. Oh, I guess we probably should have talked about something like that. How to plan your creative journey. That would have actually been pretty good. Choosing your niche. Strategies for identifying your unique selling point. I don't know what the hell your selling point is, but your unique interest, I guess. So maybe we'll smash some of those fundamentals into next week. But like we said, next week will be the stuff we just talked about, getting the most out of your gear, SEO, which is search engine work, and then editing, or anything else that you want to address under technical. But some of the others that I'll blab about here for a bit are monetization. the pros and cons of different monetization strategies, ads, membership, sponsored content, etc. So what's the difference between ads and sponsored content? I think I could figure that out. And then the next one is Patreon and crowdfunding, how to set up a successful Patreon campaign. That would be interesting. And then affiliate marketing for content creators, a how-to guide. So that's an ambitious show because that's a lot of different things, but most of y'all ain't, playing advanced game with any of these particular ones. So, when that one comes up, any questions you might have. What was USP? Unique selling proposition? Oh, strategies for your USP. Oh, okay, gotcha. I know that most of these, when you see selling, people are going to either tune out or get distracted. But essentially, tuning in your focus or your keywords or whatever it is to find the audience that's actually interested in what you're doing. It's the same as if you're selling something to somebody. You don't want to try to sell pants to somebody who runs around with a dress on, and you don't want to try to talk about Second Amendment to somebody who only wants to hear about the fanciest new shotgun technology. So the monetization one sounds pretty ambitious, but we can always have more than one show in the series on these things. I certainly like to see people be more ambitious with their monetization because there's a giant industry that swells and constricts, and often people are just not capitalist enough to try. And if they do put out a little effort and do it at a time when the industry is constricted, they just don't always realize that the industry bloats. So you can do it at a different time and on those stretches. I don't know if Jeff agrees, but on the stretches, when it's getting bigger or it's getting smaller, those are times that are different too. So, the industry grows and contracts all the time. So some of these concepts and some of these strategies and issues are going to be different depending. Where are you? What did you just do? Are you just walking it out freely? Oh, what are you doing? The dog started being weird. Then we've got community building, engagement metrics that matter, how to measure real engagement, and why likes aren't everything. Interesting. I wonder where likes comes from. Probably that's an aged metric, but maybe it's on Facebook and I'm missing it. I often don't know what the hell's going on Facebook. Building a loyal community, strategies to grow and nurture your audience. And then collaborations and networking, how to do it right. So community building, engagement metrics that matter. I would say it's interesting. I don't know what kind of engagement metrics we get, but I could probably throw that into some kind of robot and get an answer. Building a loyal community. I don't know about the loyal part, but an interested community isn't too hard when you have a topic that's of importance to people. But again, we'll throw some of these topics into a robot. I haven't really put too much thought into some of these, so I'm not sure. I mean, I've definitely got experience with it, but most of my experience is like, let's give this a try. It's not, let's plan this out and do it. Because we tried to plan it out and got in a big fight and then just tried something. So, at least with gun channels. So, some of this stuff is, I'm not going to be all that much. All I can do is offer some experience. But I wonder, we might be able to bring in some subject matter experts potentially. The next one, though, I think is interesting that they included it because I asked a robot for these and the robot came up with these. Mental health and lifestyle, avoiding burnout, tips on keeping the creative flame alive, the work-life balance, how to maintain healthy boundaries when your hobby becomes your job. Is it the top of the hour already? Imposter syndrome, ways to cope with self-doubt. So that's interesting. Everybody's different, I guess. So things that they're bringing up are things that, I mean, I personally haven't dealt with everything here. And I don't necessarily see these issues only affecting our community, if at all. Is that a way to say it? But I'm sure some of these can be factors for everybody, and there's got to be more than this. But I like where they're coming from, and I like the concept of devoting an entire segment of the series to this issue, because what we do see is plenty of people jump into the mix, maybe have unrealistic expectations or unrealistic metrics or whatever, expectations or whatever, and then when they don't meet them, they just quit. And who knows? It's probably just some people's nature to go on to the next thing, the next hobby. 2A is definitely a hobby for a lot of people. But if there's something that can be avoided in the initial construction of their system or their layout of their project or their steps to their goals or whatever, that gives them the chance to adapt and stop and rest every once in a while and monitor, that's all awesome. So the next one is trends and future outlook. Interesting again. Like, would you include all of these elements in a conversation, a series of conversations about advanced content creation? So trends and future outlook. The rise of short form content. Interesting that a robot that's dead for 2 years, it's only been alive, it stopped being alive 2 years ago. It knows about short form content. What TikTok and similar platforms mean for the future of content creation. NFTs and content creators, how blockchain technology could benefit you. Is blockchain over? Are NFTs gone? Or are we still at the beginning of blockchain? Blockchain's pretty awesome. So it's not going away. It's just a matter of if, it's like the beta and we're going to see VHS take over next. But, the technology, the idea of renting a video is, everybody wants that. It's going to be cool. You don't know you want it yet, but it's going to be cool. Everybody thought they just wanted cable until they could go rent whatever video they wanted. And then they were like, oh, okay, I kind of want both. So that's the way blockchain is. It's not going to replace nothing 100%, but you're going to want it around. But anyway, then AI and automation in content creation, friend or foe. Interesting that they put AI and automation through artificial intelligence in the future and trends and not under technology, because it's permanent. It's firmly in technology. I can't open up almost any software anymore that isn't on the cloud. And what does that mean? When it's on the cloud, you have a portal, you have a terminal into the software on your computer. And that terminal gets updated from the cloud. It gets updated from the company's servers. But what you have on your computer is not an end thing that you need to, update or do anything with. You just have the controls. You just have a dashboard, a terminal. And the software on their end updates potentially constantly, depending on the size of the company, but often and whenever it feels like it, whenever it feels the need. So what that means is technology adapts and changes very fast anymore. You don't have to buy a piece of software and take it from the CD or the disk and put it into your computer and then run it and then have it go find updates off the internet and then run as a part of a software on your computer. Now you just open up a terminal from a web browser, maybe a software that connects this way to the internet, but the majority of that software is happening on the server somewhere in Adobe or on Google or whoever, Amazon. And that makes the software massively more powerful, but it also means they can update it anytime they want. And they've all added AI. AI is all over the place. So it's hardly trends and future outlook. It's what part of AI are you already using and what do you plan on using? Because there's no need to use all of it, but no matter what you're doing, you can save time with it or you can keep up with the Joneses, so to speak. Because if you're spending an hour and a half making something in Photoshop to an end result that becomes 1/10 of your project, like a thumbnail, you're spending some amount of time in Photoshop for each thumbnail, if somebody else can spend a moment in a AI version of Photoshop and come up with a thumbnail by saying, "Hey robot, give me a good thumbnail for this video," and then there's a good thumbnail and they can just move on with their lives, then that's a process you got to either be willing to waste that amount of time for the chore, or pass that chore on to a robot. And I'm using the thumbnail as an example, but there's about a million other things that are part of content creation anymore that could be done by robots. And it could be as easily as just using the auto filters in a software package instead of adjusting everything the way we used to, going into each filter and adjusting something based on back and forth or adjusting to some pattern. Now you can probably just run AI filters, apply that to a group of photos type of thing. Anyhow, so we'll be talking about that for a whole episode. And then we've got special episodes, expert roundtable, bring in experienced content creators for a panel discussion. We could probably try that. It's a little early in the day to get a panel of people in here, but we could try. A listener Q&A, we do that every week. But we can address common questions that come in for sure. Of course, we do that every week anyway. And then case studies, deep dives into successful or innovative content creators and see what sets them apart. Clover likes to do that, so we might be able to accomplish that pretty easily. The advanced topics or tactics are going to be advanced analytics, using data to shape your content strategy. So collecting and acquiring and interpreting data will be part of that if we can help with that. And again, people are going to need to bring us some level of experience, some level of interest to this, because we can dive really deep into some things that may not be all that much interest when, we could have spent that time digging into, less deep, but into more places with, different conversation. So personal branding, how to create and maintain a compelling persona. I don't know. Don't do what some people do, maybe. Cross-platform strategies, how to effectively distribute your content across multiple platforms. We barely dabbled with that a little bit today, but I don't know if is that an advanced tactic, really? I'm not sure. And then finally, interviews. Oh, see, they made interviews like we're going to interview competent and ambitious creators dissecting their journey. I was thinking it would be more like talking about interviews, like how to do a good interview. So I guess we'll expect some we'll ask for some feedback and see what people want, what they expect from that one. We could attempt to bring people on to have these interviews, but again, on a Tuesday morning, I don't want to offer what we can't provide there. So this is something that we do every Tuesday, 2 hours. Well, we don't go 2 hours. We usually go about an hour and a half. But today I was blabbing because we're about to do an off-air thing here, and Clover needed 20 minutes. So I'll mention that after this show, you get the opportunity to check out a place out of Massachusetts called Cape Gun Works. Does a segment of the Grace Curley radio show, and that's a radio show out of Massachusetts, out of Boston, I think. And it's a radio show. It's kind of like politics and stuff, news of the day. And every Tuesday for 45 minutes, they have a 2A Tuesday segment where Toby from Cape Gun Works joins Grace Curley, and they go live and answer questions that come in from the callers of of listeners of the radio show. And Toby's able to answer questions on the technical stuff or on the just the interests of people in Massachusetts and the guns that they have there. He has a gun shop with a range, so he has lots of experience with different guns and shooting them and whatnot. But then because it's Massachusetts, they also have to deal with lots of potential infringements and actual infringements and bills that are being pushed at him right now, threatened at him. So he's able to competently offer insight and information about the different legal and legal things that are happening in Massachusetts. So right now they're dealing with HD 4420. They just had a rally for it. I'm sure they're going to have more, trying to keep people's attention focused on sort of the MOAB, the mother of all bad gun laws, was dropped on them. And at the last minute, it was tried to get pushed through by the person who dropped it in a special session without any votes or with special votes or something. And that was denied. So it got delayed until later in the year to go through the standard cycle. So in order to create awareness, they're using the GOAL, the Gun Owners Action League, and others interested in Massachusetts are using the time to get people as motivated as possible, as aware as possible, and as angry as possible of the type of infringements that were so casually suggested for the reasons of safety. And, our other infringements didn't work. Therefore, we need more. So thanks to Toby and to Cape Gun Works for providing that brief, well, not brief, but 45-minute show each Tuesday. They also do the Rapid Fire radio show each Wednesday. That's a 2-hour show. We'll go live tomorrow and talk about Instagram, and we'll lead off their show tomorrow as well. But otherwise, we're going to end this one up. I'll mention that Clover has a series coming up of podcasts where he'll interview different people. I believe it's being sponsored by Monstrum. Is it Tactical? And they make optics and optic mounts and things like that. Thanks to Foss for showing us about them. And he'll be going live, I think, twice a week for a number of weeks in his second portion of his podcast season. He also has the GunTuber Academy. This is being simulcast to that channel. So anybody that's out there, feel free to grab Clover's normal channel, his website. We'll have links to all that. As we mentioned, he uses his website to link to those things. And then he's got his YouTube channel where he posts, or I guess I was saying he has his YouTube channel where he's going to be posting the interview series, his podcast, but he's also got the GunTuber Academy channel, and I'll link to that as well. And that is where this is being broadcast, not his standard channel. And the GunTuber Academy is to help people who are focused on gun content to help them out with these topics. So we simulcast to that channel. If you're listening over there, thanks for that. If you're listening on our podcast channel, the Daily Gun Show, welcome. And everybody else was able to participate in the poll. We had a bunch of votes. It looks like I should have labeled it, what is the most important attribute of a content creator or something like that. But essentially the question was, what makes an advanced content creator? And I had in here steady growth, knowledge in the way they present it, or consistency, or production value. So knowledge and the way they present it overwhelmingly wins with 73%. Consistency comes in consistent second with, changed to 25%. Right now, it just changed. And then steady growth steadily came in at third with 6%. Interestingly, production value died on the vine with 0%, not even one pity vote for production value. So I'm glad to hear that, because I don't have any of that usually, and I don't really strive for it. If I got money to spend, I'd rather put it into gas in the truck and or the van, I guess, and get to more places, or put it into stuff for the sites, more servers or something like that. So we're going to be going off air here and chatting with folks who are interested in collaborating with other folks and getting a little more one-on-one time with the content creators, us, or I guess the content creator coaches, us. So if you're interested in that, you got to let us know somehow, and we'll be back next week. Oh, AR Guns jumping in at the last moment. I got to throw up there, or throw his channel up there. Thanks for hosting your chats on the regular, keeping people together and informed. Spiky also out there. You bet. All right, so I'm ending the poll. I'm wrapping this thing up. Clover and I are joined by Tony Simon on Saturdays, and we answer gun questions. So if you got any just questions in general about guns and you want to hear what three old dudes would say about it, go to askgunquestions.com, and you can ask a question there. We don't harvest any emails or anything like that. You don't have to even leave your name. Just ask the question, and on Saturdays we answer it.
AskGunQuestions.com is a website that we built back in 2007, and since then, for the last 15 years, people have been able to ask questions of simple to advanced nature, and we attempt to answer them in different ways over the years. Join us now as we start a new series to answer gun questions.
So that's on Saturdays. AR saying thanks for the shout out. Yeah, you bet. I mean, I really mean it. It's cool to have people that are interested enough to open shows up and chat and to bring people on and to kind of play around. I know that you're playing, you've played over the years with your cameras and your lighting and your backgrounds and the ways that you can angle stuff to, in your case for the reloading and that kind of thing. But that's just sharing, I guess, that encourages folks to stick around and understand just how cool the gun community is in general, right? And when we need people, it shows like yours and Gizzards is, and Ghost was out there, and Foss. Let me start clicking on everybody. This is the romper room. It'll be like Matt from Never Enough Ammo. He likes to do this. We got AR Guns out there, hosted a live chat on the regular. Gear Report technically runs a gear chat on Thursdays. Foss every Saturday right now, but some, historically on Wednesdays and Saturdays, hosts live chats. New York, Outcast regularly in those chats, if not hosting them himself fairly regularly or occasionally, I guess. Gizzard every Friday with Foul Territory, right? And I'm probably missing people as I scroll up here. G23 was out here or not? Ozzy also consistently in the audiences. Ghost every Tuesday with the Armed Citizens. Wait, is it the Armed Citizens podcast? So I apologize if I'm missing anybody as I scroll up here. I know that Gunpowder Beauty has hosted shows, as has Snob technically. That guy's wife technically has hosted chats as well. But those are the efforts that are what this conversation was all about. So yeah, I really do appreciate those folks who are willing to put the time into it and put the effort into it. Otherwise, we wouldn't have the ability to get together like we do. It's the practice. It's the time on the range, right? Like we're marksmen because we get to the range and practice once in a while. So when we need to, we're able to rally together because of folks like everybody I just focused on here, because those people are comfortable enough to gather an audience for an important thing and willing to do that on the regular so that when it's necessary, we're able to do it in stride. We don't even have to think about it. Let's go live and, help somebody out. Let's go live and get something accomplished. Let's go live and make sure, this happens or doesn't happen half the time. All right. With all that said, I'll throw a link up here to our store and then it'll go off air and then we'll have that off air.
GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com.